going on week 3 of my hunger strike for equality for singles. I've been fasting 18 hours a day, and I've been trying to keep the eating to a minimum the other 6 hours. And the reason I want to do this is to impress upon people that we can have a dialogue, right? Because fasting has been, or losing weight has been, one thing that my mom has been concerned about me for. And if I lose another 20 pounds, I think she will be concerned enough to actually hear me out on what I have to say. But more importantly, I want our culture to hear me out. Let me give you an example. So I work at a tutoring center. It's become a very cult-like room of people, right? You got my manager who's in his 60s and has been happily married for many decades, right? His children are in committed relationships. I don't know if they're married. I have several coworkers who are also like that. Some of the older students are starting to experience with their bodies. And it's become very cult-like that everybody needs somebody else, right? I don't even think they accept LGBTQ even, right? I mean, they say they do, right? I'm not so sure, right? Because there aren't that many people like that over there. The community I live in has also been very cult-like in that attitude, right? So a lot of times, especially here in Seattle, I don't feel very comfortable going to a bowling alley late at night. I get harassed by homosexual men, or sometimes just very aggressive women as well, right? Don't feel very, I feel a lot more comfortable going out at night in Wallace, Idaho, where people accept that some people are just happy alone, right? Here in the Seattle area, that seems to be a very foreign concept. And I think a lot more people are solosexual. They compromise themselves, right? I see it in a lot of my peers. They compromise themselves in a relationship, get unhappy, break up, repeat the whole cycle when their happiness was staring them right in the face the whole time. I see that a lot. And it's sad for the one individual involved. But you know what's even more sad? These people are contributing to the cult that is going on, right? Now, the reason I want to starve myself to death, or at least to get attention, is because, can you imagine what our Let's Go Brandon would do if, let's conservatively say there are 50 million solosexuals here in the United States. That's very conservative, by the way, from my own experience. Now, if 10 million of these people went on a hunger strike, you would think some number might die every day, right? Let's call it 10,000 people were to die of the hunger strike every day, right? Out of 10 million, I think that's reasonable, right? 1 out of every 1,000 were to die doing what I'm doing right now, right? Now, so it's 10,000 a day. I remember when Let's Go Brandon freaked out over 1,000 deaths a day, right? Or maybe it was even less than that, right? Now it's 10,000, and now it's something that he actually can do something about, right? So our policies could be adjusted. We could, for example, right now, part of the reason Seattle is so unaffordable for people who are solosexual is because all our housing, if you just look around yourself, most housing is built revolving around the idea of a family, right? The nuclear family. And I think that would instantly change if thousands and thousands of people were just dying left and right, filling our hospitals, needing IV bags of food because they were starving themselves. I think that would instantly create some change, right? Our tax code could change. You could start to see our if we were to have another round of stimulus, it would be less favorable toward couples, right? The last couple of rounds of stimulus were tilted heavily toward people in marriages, right? That could change. You could see our culture change as well, right? You could see it much more acceptable to go bowling alone, right? Oftentimes I go to the bowling alley alone. It's like I'm a second-class citizen, right? You could see workplace dynamics change, right? I mean, people ask me, give me an example of discrimination or harassment at the workplace. Well, it's never a big event, right? Nobody's going to say you're fired for being single, right? Or you get all these odd hours because you're single, right? They happen bit by bit death by 1,000 stab wounds, right? It's never a big thing, right? Everything sounds so trivial, right? So, for example, during Valentine's Day, I had a few cruel jokes. I mean, the jokes I could probably tolerate, but they were on top of other things that were already happening, right? My coworker needs to take a day off for various things. Meanwhile, one of my most upsetting situations during the pandemic was back on July 4th, 2020, I went out to see a lunar eclipse, and I had to come back to work the next day. Meanwhile, my coworkers are telling me that their kids have no school to go to, whatever the case is. I'm like, gee, I like to continue my education as well, even if it's a little bit of photography with the lunar eclipse, right? Just like your kids need their education, right? That's what I'm thinking. I didn't say it out loud, obviously. But that incident on its own is not a very big event, right? It's the combination of that, the cruel jokes, the treated as second class. You get the idea, right? I've often thought of AIDS was to homosexuals as COVID-19 is now to solosexuals, right? We call it scapegoating, right? We're out there messing around, and we don't have people to take care of, and it really feels that way. These last couple of years, I don't want to make light of what happened to homosexuals during AIDS, but it really feels like a repeat of that, but with solosexuals instead, right? And also straight people who are out there looking for others, right? All right, anyways, I want my ashes to go to Wallace, Idaho if something were to happen to me during the hunger strike.